Hello, good evening. Response to COVID-19. I'm Wesley Gibbings, and this is TTT Live. And we are joined by Talk City 91.1 FM and TTT Live Online. Here with me this evening is Minister of Education, Honorable Anthony Garcia, and we'll be discussing the way forward for students, particularly those doing the SEA and CSEC and CAPE exams this year. Those examinations were originally scheduled to take place between April and June. Minister, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be with you again, Wesley.
Well, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
Now, the scheduling of examinations came up very early when the decision was taken to close the nation's schools. What is the latest with respect to those examinations?
Okay, let me begin with SEA. SEA was scheduled to be written by our students, 19,000 plus students, on the 2nd of April this year. Obviously, if school will not reopen until the 20th of April, there is need for this exam to be rescheduled. In terms of rescheduling the exam, there are a number of factors that we have to take into consideration. First of all, the SEA is an examination that is administered by CXC. So we have to have discussions, which we have been having with CXC with respect to the rescheduling of the exam. If school reopens, if we are able to meet our target by having schools reopen on the 20th of April, it might mean that we can have the exam written sometime during the middle of May. However, the situation as it is, it keeps unfolding every day. We are not sure whether we can make that target. We are keeping our fingers crossed, and we are hopeful that we can have school reopen on the 20th of April. And as I said before, if that is achieved, then we can have the exam sometime around the middle of May. In the meanwhile, however, we want to ensure that our students are not left unattended. And we have been able to collaborate with TTT. And already we have been able to have a number of lessons recorded, and they will be broadcast beginning on Monday, the 23rd of March. And these are subjects that the students will be writing: creative writing, which is referred to as essay writing, language arts, and also mathematics. These are the three areas. We have been able to engage professional, experienced teachers in the primary school who have been doing these lessons, and those events took place at the Office of the Ministry of Education. I want to thank those teachers who have stepped up to the plate and who have voluntarily given up their time, all in the interest of the children in Trinidad and Tobago. Hats off to them, and we are truly appreciative. Up to today, we are the last taping sessions. So hopefully everything will go fine. So on Monday, from 9:15 on the morning AM and 1:15 in the afternoon, we'll have lessons broadcast, and they are interactive lessons so that the students can follow. So I'm appealing, first of all, to the parents to ensure that your students make themselves available so they can learn during this time. And secondly, I'm asking the students, please, as part of your preparation, again, make yourselves available.
Have you been able to get feedback from the, well, of course, there are multiple households involved in this, but have you been able to gauge and assess whether the children are spending their time fruitfully at this time?
Well, that is a bit difficult. You see, there was a time when I had children, and even grandchildren, who wrote the essay exam. You don't have that anymore. But I've been talking to a number of teachers, and I've been interacting with a number of principals, and to a large extent, they have been telling me that their students and their children are making every effort to do work during this vacation period. In addition to that, up to today, I've been told that at a number of schools, the teachers are sending work online for the students. So those students are not left unoccupied. They are occupying themselves so that learning and teaching can take place.
Yeah. Now, regarding CSEC and CAPE, what's the position of those?
CSEC is an exam that is written by students in Form 5. In some schools, we have students writing the exam in Form 4. And CAPE is an exam that is written by students in Form 6. These are regional examinations, again, under the auspices and direction of CXC. We are in collaboration, discussion, consultation with CXC in an effort to have those exams rescheduled. Of course, as I said before, these exams are regional examinations, and therefore the discussions and the consultations have to take place among the other territories within the region. CXC had offered us 3 options, and we looked at the options, and at Thursday's meeting, yesterday's meeting of Cabinet has decided that we are going to recommend one of the options. However, as I said, the situation keeps changing, it keeps unfolding on a daily basis, and perhaps we might have to go to option 3, depending on how the situation unfolds.
Which option 3 would be, without necessarily getting into all the details?
Option 3 would be writing the exams sometime in September, October. Again, it all depends on how the situation unfolds.
Because you would have been in touch with your counterparts in other Caribbean countries that are a little bit behind with respect to the response. I think Trinidad and Tobago stepped up to the plate very early,
yes.
But there are some countries where they came in after this closed up shop. I know Jamaica is now on full shutdown. They're planning to close the airports from tomorrow, and there's going to be major disruption there. So have you been able to talk to some of your counterparts to get a reading about what are the possibilities?
I myself have not been able to do that, but our Chief Education Officer and other senior officials of the Ministry of Education have been having direct contact with CXC. In addition to that, we have a local registrar at the Ministry of Education, and he has been reporting to me on discussions that he has been having with CXC officials and also with officials from the other countries. As you stated just now, I must commend, apart from the Ministry of Health, because they were very proactive, the Ministry of Education and our senior officers have also been very proactive. Because from the moment we got word that this flu, this virus, would have the possibility and the potential of affecting Trinidad and Tobago, obviously we started putting things in place. And towards this end, we embarked on a series of consultations. We consulted with the Association of Denominational Boards. As you know, we run a dual system of education where the boards play an important role. We consulted with the Association of Principals of Primary Schools. We had meetings with the Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, and also we had discussions with the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. And arising out of these discussions, we were able to formulate a position that we can take to Cabinet.
Now, one of the features of both exams, CSEC and CAPE, would be the preparation of SBAs for submission. Now, students would have already started working on those, aiming for a deadline, was it in May?
Well, in the case of CSEC, that is the exam that is written by the students in Form 5, the original deadline for the submission of the SBAs was the 30th of April.
Okay.
And for the students who will be writing the CAPE examinations, the deadline for the submission of the SBAs was the 31st of May. And again, that is one of the areas in which we are having discussions with CXC, because we need to reschedule those deadlines.
Yeah. Now, you had recent discussions with tutor regarding making up or some of the time in the new term. What kind of progress are you able to report on with those discussions?
Well, unfortunately, the meeting ended abruptly, somewhat abruptly, simply because we did not get the agreement that we are looking for with tutor. And let me explain. We have no contention with tutor. We have no fight with tutor. We recognize tutor as a very major stakeholder. And as a result, we have an obligation to consult with tutor. Therefore, we had a meeting and we explained to tutor the situation as it stands. And at that time we said, depending on how things go, there's a possibility of extending the school term by 1 week, and that is from the 3rd of July to the 10th of July. Immediately, tutors shut it down. Well, after all those discussions that we were having before, we said, okay, if that is their position, then the meeting must come to an end. Bear in mind also that the situation, I keep saying this, is changing almost on a daily basis. So even if we are saying that perhaps we might have to have an extension of the term from the 3rd of July to the 10th of July, perhaps we might even have this term at all, the third term. We don't know exactly what is happening. If you look at what is happening in other countries, for example, in England, all schools have been shut.
Yes.
All schools. In many parts of the world, all schools, both primary and secondary schools, have been closed down. So it depends again on how the situation unfolds. We'll be able to determine. But we are keeping our fingers crossed, as I keep saying. We are praying. We are hoping that our students are not left behind, because there are many students, in spite of what we have been putting in place, they need the face-to-face with the school teachers. And an important aspect of education is the socializing process. And the school system is a system that provides that. So we would not want to deprive our students of those opportunities. And this is why we are moving forward, hopefully, that this situation can be resolved in the not-too-distant future.
Now, when you say that in terms of the delivery of schooling, other sectors that we have met with and discussed on this program, yesterday we had the people from the tourism and hospitality industry, and we've had people in manufacturing. They are essentially indicating that this is an opportunity to recalibrate, to reconsider, to renew, to review the way they've been doing business. Is the Ministry of Education using this opportunity to give second thought or third thought or fourth thought, depending on how far the process has been in the past, to delivering education to our children in a different way?
Yes, and that is a very important question you're asking. You know, we are in the digital age, and we have to make sure that we use the technology that is available to us. And therefore, online teaching and learning must be brought to the fore. And this gives us an opportunity to ensure that we can inculcate in the education system this online teaching and learning. Again, the Ministry of Education has been in the forefront where this is concerned, and we have 2 platforms that we have been working on, and those platforms are now available. One is called the School Learning Management System, which allows students and teachers to download education material, teaching material that they can share with the students. And the other one is the Education Management Information Service, which is referred to as EMIS. And again, this will allow teachers and students to interact with each other online. And therefore, we have been able to upload and download a number of education materials and teaching materials. And I know in particular, the secondary school students have been making themselves available of these 2 platforms.
Okay. We're going to have to go to a break now, and we'll be right. When we come back, we will discuss more on changes in the system in the face of COVID-19, and of course, the whole notion of continuing education during this critical time.
The winning numbers in the National Lottery online draws for Friday, 20th March 2020. At 10:30 a.m., play away the number 10 Monkey. Pick 2 numbers 21 and 13 in that order. Pick 4 numbers 7, 8, 2, and 1 in that order. At 1 p.m., play away the number 7 Hug. Pick 2 numbers 5 and 5. Mega Ball called. Pick 4 numbers 8, 4, 2, and 3 in that order. At 4 p.m., play away the number 34 Blind Man. Mega Ball and Mega Ultra Balls called. Pick 2 numbers 19 and 17 in that order. Mega Ball called. Pick 4 numbers 5, 5, 6, and 8 in that order. At 7 p.m., play away the number 2 Old Lady. Mega Ball called. Pick 2 numbers 20 and 28 in that order. Pick 4 numbers 0, 4, 4, and 2 in that order. Cashbot numbers 19, 4, 6, 2, and 7 in any order. Multiplier 3.
Even though preschool is closed, your child's education does not stop. Let them learn to read, spell, write, and develop numeracy skills while having fun in the comfort and safety of your home using the JJ and Friends apps, workbooks, reading books, wall charts, board games, flashcards, and erasable writing mats, all designed using the Ministry of Education's ECCE curriculum. Create the perfect learning environment in your home today. Let them have fun while they learn. Plus, get a free Amazon Kindle Fire. Get your child fully prepared for primary school today with the JJ and Friends JTAB Junior Suite. Call now 800-READ.
Protect yourself from COVID-19 novel coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Healthy me, healthy you, healthy Trinidad and Tobago. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to Response to COVID-19 on TTT Live, also on Talk City 91.1 FM and TTT Live online. I'm Wesley Gibbings in studio this evening with the Minister of Education, Honorable Anthony Garcia. Minister, we were talking about recalibrating and renewing and refreshing the approach to the delivery of schooling. And you were saying that the ministry is in the process of looking at some of these mechanisms that can be put in place. Now, there might be instances where, on both sides, you would need the means in order to deliver, and you would need the means for students to receive and to be able to interact with the system. Now, in the TTT initiative is essentially on television and online via the various portals available to TTT. What is your reading of the availability of the means by students to receive and to absorb this material?
Okay, let me begin with the easier one, television and radio. We have decided that we're going to use television and radio as the primary sources of communicating with the students. However, as you rightly said, we recognize that there are many areas where students cannot access even internet. The minister in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Francis, he lives in Maruga, and he has been lamenting the fact that in Maruga you can't even access internet. We are in discussions with the Telecommunication Authority of Trinidad and Tobago in an effort to have them provide internet access in those areas, and also we are in talks with the Ministry of Public Administration. And both entities are working assiduously all in an effort at ensuring that those children are not left behind. So that's one aspect of it. So we are hoping that perhaps by early next week, some of those areas would be able to be well served with internet. And we have been able to identify some of those hotspot areas so that we can have that. The second thing is, in terms of the devices, and again, we are working at ensuring that we can get some of these devices in the hands of our students. Now, we know that in almost every home, there is a cell phone. And most of our cell phones are smartphones. And through these smartphones, you can access these platforms. But then there might be the need for tablets. And we are looking at getting tablets, even if we get those tablets on loan, so that our students will have an opportunity of accessing their education. It is important for us to ensure that no child is left behind. And as I've been saying over and over, one of the pillars on which we build this education system is equity. And equity to us means every child must be given an equal opportunity to succeed. You know, education is a basic human right for children, and we want to ensure that they are able to observe and be able to access all the education offerings that we have in place, and therefore we are doing everything so our children will not be left behind.
Now, how far do you see the ministry moving with respect to online delivery of schooling, teaching, even beyond this immediate crisis? Because the mechanisms you have outlined so far appear to be pretty static. You deliver something, it's downloaded, and you think, and then you you send it back somehow. But there are many interactive platforms that are available now that students themselves use for other reasons, or other purposes. And perhaps it might be a matter of piggybacking on some of those platforms.
Well, Wesley, I am minded to ask whether you have been in close contact and collaboration with our senior officials of the Ministry of Education.
I have not.
We have an IT division headed by an IT manager who has been in the forefront in introducing a number of platforms that are available. In fact, I have a document here, Ministry of Education Digital Initiatives for Teachers and Students, and we are well advanced where this is concerned. Simple things like a pay slip, a teacher pay slip.
Yes.
Long ago, a teacher would have to travel to come to the ministry. Teachers can now get that online. And a letter where they might want to take to the embassy for a visa, where again they have to travel to the Ministry of Education, they can access that online. A number of services that they had to come to the ministry before, they can now access those services. In addition to that, as you know, one of the problems that we have been having is that some of our schools are experiencing infrastructural difficulties, and it takes some time for that information to be transferred from the principal to the Ministry of Education. One of the apps that we have on a real-time basis, the principal would just have to use the platform and inform the Ministry of Education almost immediately of any problems. So the Ministry of Education is well advanced where this is concerned.
Right. Now, earlier on, you talk about the totality of the education. So it's not just a matter of learning lessons and responding to examinations and so on, but the socialization process. I want to give you an example of something that I only came across today.
Mm-hmm.
There was this young woman whose birthday was on Monday, and she wanted to find a way to celebrate because, of course, she can't bring big groups of people together. She held her birthday party online using Twitter and Periscope.
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke to her today, she said, do you know how many people attended my birthday party?
500?
10,000.
10,000.
At any one point in time, you had between 500 and 750, but people were visiting, and they were coming from all over the world, and they were meeting new people, and all the things that happen in a party were happening. People were encouraged to cook at home and to put their drinks or whatever. There was a live DJ, and the DJ was playing music. People were in their headphones and dancing and so on. The boys, the men and the young men and young women were flirting with each other and chatting. And I said, what? You know, if we can kind of replicate that model, because there's a strong socialization element, but there's also a learning element of it too, in terms of meeting new people, exchanging information, albeit perhaps frivolous or recreational. But I'm seeing here the possibilities that the technology offer. So you can deliver some social elements of socialization using these new platforms.
Well, that is the way in which the world is heading. And again, we have to ensure that we are kept abreast of all these changes. Our IT department is working feverishly to ensure that we are not left behind. One of the areas also that we are looking at is artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And we have a committee right now headed by the Director of Planning, and that committee is engaging with a number of agencies. In addition to that, the University of West Indies, the principal of the University of West Indies, told us just recently that he's willing to share some of the expertise of the university with us, so that all of these technological advances are being taken care of, so that we can, again, be able to hold our head high in the area of education throughout the world.
And you find that the teaching cohort is keeping abreast of these things sufficiently?
Yes, because we have been having training. In fact, more than 4,000 or 5,000 of our teachers have been trained already. We have an ongoing training process, and that is again being headed by one of the directors in the Ministry of Education. We have constant training in these areas.
So how, in totality, how are you seeing the COVID-19 crisis? Is it a setback, or is it an opportunity? Is it, how is it? I mean, it's unexpected. I mean, there's no way, I think, that any Minister of Education anywhere in the world could have thought that it could have come to this.
You know, there's a saying that one must use every difficulty and create opportunities from those difficulties. And I think this is one of the things that this government is doing, creating opportunities out of the difficulty that now faces us. And the crisis, although it is very bad, I mean, 10,000 lives have been lost. We must do everything to ensure that we can pull together some of the positives with respect to the way our people respond, the way the population responds, the coming together of the population, and I'm in education, how the school system can benefit from some of the things that I might say some of the things that we are forced to put in place, as you have been talking about all the time about the technology. It forces us to engage in technology. It forces us to engage with our stakeholders in a more meaningful way. It forces us to rely on the experts of those persons who are qualified and trained so that they can help our students, and it brings all of us together. So again, this can be seen not as a positive, but as an opportunity where we are using this difficulty so that we can still bring some merit to the education system.
Now, I know a source of great irritation to everybody involved in education, including yourself, is the issue of the maintenance of schools. Is the opportunity going to be taken here to bring everything up to scratch so that when we eventually get back to a level of normalcy, students are going to go back to pristine conditions?
Wesley, you know, again, you have certain insights which I admire. I know you for a number of years, and it seems as though you have grown.
No, and we have not.
We are using these 5 weeks initially to ensure that our schools are well maintained. Our department, EFPPD Department of the Ministry of Education, have been sending out its technical officers, and they have been visiting all these schools. And today, on my desk, I got a file which outlined some of the areas where we need to pay attention to in some of these schools. So again, it is an opportunity for us to ensure that when school reopens, if and when, then we can have the schools in a top shape.
Now, the Minister of Finance has been groaning recently because there's a $5 billion shortfall in expected revenue. And so the focus right now are in the key areas of health, national security. So schools presumably would come a little bit lower down the totem pole. What kinds of conversations are you having with the Minister of Finance? And no, don't tell me I've been listening in on any cabinet meetings. But what kinds of conversations have you been having with the Minister?
In everything we do, we try to adopt what we refer to as a whole government approach. So we don't sectionize the government. Health, finance, social delivery, education, we pool our resources, both financial, human resources, intellectual resources, all in an effort at ensuring that the country benefits. So it isn't that health will come into prominence to the expense of another ministry. We are working together, and this is our mantra, a whole government approach. And exactly what you are saying, for example, you would know if you read the news this evening that the Ministry of Communication issued a release with respect to the essay exam. It is because of the collaboration that we have been having. Yeah. Right? We have been meeting with the Ministry of Health because of this crisis, and all of the agencies, all of the ministries are working together. So it is, as I said before, a whole government approach.
Yeah, now the focus and the TTT initiative is one that focuses on the SEA students principally, or only, but the CSEC and the CAPE ones will, and I think that most parents that I've interacted with respect to SEA are generally confident that apart from maybe emotional issues tied to the trauma, there was a psychologist who visited us recently, and he spoke about the incidence of trauma. Some people might not realize it, but this is a very traumatic experience, and the trauma is transferring from adults to their children, and the children are taking notes. So, but even with that, there are parents who are relatively confident because the exam is going to be postponed. I mean, there's no two ways about it, so children have a little bit of breathing space. CSEC and CAPE, which takes you to a different level of pressure and tension and trauma. Is there anything that's going to be planned for delivery of education or some kind of initiative to touch base with these people, these young people, during the course of this crisis?
Allow me, Wesley, to just go back to the essay exam and the trauma that you have identified. You know, some years ago, there was a body of research that really looked at the common entrance exam as it was at that time.
Yes.
Lots of things came out of that research. That research it resides in the University of the West Indies, and it talks about the trauma and the anxiety. But that trauma and the anxiety is really on the shoulders of the parents. I wrote the common entrance exam in 1961. I wrote the first common entrance exam. And at that time, there wasn't this trauma and this excitement. I remember we would come home, we would play, we do everything that a young child does. And then we go and we write the exam. I was fortunate that I was able to succeed. But over the years, we find that parents have been so concerned and they have been putting that undue pressure on the children.
Well, that's because all things have not remained equal. You have all kinds of other stresses and strains.
No, I agree that. I agree that 100%. But the point I want to make is that we need to appeal to the parents. Please do not excite your students. They will do well. Have no fear about it. We have universal secondary education, and even if the child isn't assigned to the school of his first, second, or third choice, that child will emerge later on. In terms of the secondary school now, to answer your question directly, it is a bit different because the secondary school students have been using the technology. I have a granddaughter who attends a secondary school. She's in lower 6, and today she told me that she had 2 hours of work at home with the teacher, interactive, using the technology. And that has been done at all levels of the secondary school system. This morning, again, I had the opportunity of talking to a principal of my alma mater, Hillview College. And again, we are talking about what has been done so that our secondary school students will be able to embrace the opportunities that are now available to them through technology. So they are not being left behind.
Okay, Minister, we're going to be back in a short while. This is COVID-19. I'm Wesley Gibbings. Stay with us, please.
Yes! The month of March, we are celebrating women. Women, power to women. I think of my mother. I think of my sister. I think of women on a whole and what we have been through. It's not just about the struggle, but let's celebrate us, womanhood, and what we can contribute to society, to home, to life.
Can I get coronavirus from a package sent from China or other countries reporting cases of the virus?
No, the new coronavirus cannot be transmitted through goods manufactured in China or any country reporting COVID-19 cases. According to the World Health Organization, even though the new coronavirus can stay on surfaces for a few hours or up to several days, depending on the type of surface, it is very unlikely that the virus will persist on a surface after being moved, traveled, and exposed to different conditions and temperatures.
This public service announcement was brought to you by TTT Limited Media Network.
Welcome back to Response to COVID-19. I am Wesley Gibbings in studio this evening with the Education Minister, Anthony Garcia. And before we took the break, we were talking about the future of examinations and new approaches, CSEC, CAPE. I want us to go back to SEA briefly.
Okay.
You know, in the whole process of reviewing and renewing and looking at how things that have been done, do you think there's any possibility that review or renewal or new look at SEA would take in the direction of dumping it?
There are always possibilities with any human endeavor, always possibilities. And there's a possibility that we'll change the SEA exam or we'll change the format. In fact, as I mentioned just now, I wrote the SEA in 1961. It was common entrance in those days. It has undergone a number of changes, and we can see that. What I frown upon, however, is the fact that a number of persons have been calling for the abolishing of the SEA exam without putting forward any alternative. People say the SEA has to go and it is causing so much trauma and all of those things without giving us the opportunity of hearing what are the alternatives. This is something that we have been talking about for a long time. When I came into office, one of the first things that we did was to have a national consultation on education. And that consultation was held in November 2016. There were 3 sessions, one in North, one in South, and one in Tobago. And an important feature of those consultations or of those sessions was the future of the SEA. In fact, we looked at examination regimes, and the SEA was one of the important things that came out of that. The end result of those discussions was that the majority of persons felt that the SEA had to stay because they could not have offered any alternative that we can view as viable. Now, there are many things that are associated with the SEA. The SEA is really a placement exam. We have a number of schools, and in our education system, we have a dual system of education where the church plays an important role. We have the parents on the other side being guaranteed by the Constitution of this country of the right to choose a school for their children. And therefore, we have to marry both. Because of the denominational system of education, the church owns the schools, or the boards own the schools. And the concordat gives to the principal of the denominational school the right to select 20% of the students. And this is really to ensure the religious character of the school. So we have the 20% on the one hand, we have the denominational schools, and then we have the choice of the parents as enshrined in the concordat. Not every child will be placed in a school of his or her choice, but the parent has that right to choose. If we are to remove that right, then we have to change the Constitution, because that is part of the Bill of Rights of our Constitution, Section 4 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. The second thing is, if we remove that, what is the system that we have to put in place? Is it zoning? And then if it is zoning, then people have been saying that not all areas, not all districts have schools that parents might want to send their children to.
Yeah, there are built-in inequities in
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So what we are trying to do is to ensure that all our schools operate to a high standard. You know, people talk about the government schools and how they are lagging behind. The government schools are doing extremely good work, very, very good work. Those schools have been able to unearth some talents that is amazing. I saw on Facebook last night, I think it was, a student, I'm going to call the name, a student of Arima North Secondary School, who was able to talk, you know, this spoken word that we talk about now?
Yes.
And almost off the bat, just talking about this flu that affects us, and it was amazing. We have the type of talents that we always talk about. The mechanic who says about my car, sometimes I am amazed at his intelligence. He went to a government secondary school, started with the junior second, then he went to senior comprehensive. And this is the way the world is going. We cannot rely only on the students who want to go the way of the academics. the technical vocational subjects are of equal importance. I myself taught woodwork when I tell people that I taught industrial arts for 10 years at a junior secondary school. And this is an area that we have to beef up. So instead of decrying the government schools, we are trying our best to uplift the government schools so that they can operate at an equal standard as the denominational schools.
So overall, do you think that we're going to come out of this crisis in better shape than we entered it? Or, I mean, it's an unfair question, of course, because we're asking you to look into our crystal.
To predict the future, yes.
Yes, but what is your feedback? Because it's giving, I think it's giving people time. I mean, it is a stressful situation, and there are demands on you, there are demands on the system, but it is, in a sense, providing some time to sit back and to reflect on where you are and maybe introduce into everybody's minds new ideas about the way forward.
It gives us time and it gives us opportunities. As you know, I said before, we have to create opportunities out of difficulties. And if it's one thing I am sure is that we are going to learn. The learning process will allow us to move forward. And as we build, and as we lift, and as we build, I'm sure the education system will end up being the type that we all want and all wish for.
Now, and are you confident that all the stakeholders involved, I know that there was a bump with respect to your discussions with Tutor, but the other organizations and associations, essential, well, they're all, we had the president of Tutor here, and I don't think there's anything I heard that sounds in contradiction with your aspirations for the sector.
Well, I'm happy you refer to the misunderstanding as a bump. You know, in life there are bumps, there are some challenges, and you know, one of the things that I always tell my children is, if there were no challenges in life, then life would have been most boring. I am committed to hold discussions with our stakeholders. As you know, I am one of the founders of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, and I would not want to see them go off track. And we will talk, we will disagree sometimes. I am no longer the president of Tutor, and therefore, as Minister of Education, I must look at education differently. Whereas Tutor seeks the interest of the teachers, I seek the interest of the education system. And in so doing, there might be some difficulties. But I always say that there are professional teachers in the system. Most of the teachers are professionals, the practicing professionals in the system, and we'll work together. There is the Primary School Principals Association, the principals of the primary school teachers, and we work with them. We work very well. There was some misunderstanding. Even recently, and we were able to iron that out. The secondary schools, they have the associations, and we met and we had a very cordial meeting. The one area that we have not been able to touch is the National Parent Teachers Association. I would want us to have a meeting as soon as possible so that we can hear the views of the parents.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. At this stage, we want to shift the focus a little bit because there were big developments in Jamaica today. They, like us, they're battling the COVID-19 crisis. And we're going to go to Damian Mitchell from the RJR Gleaner Group in Jamaica for the latest. Hello, Damian. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. What's the very latest?
Well, the latest, the Prime Minister announced a short while ago that Jamaica has reported an additional 3 cases of the coronavirus. This now pushes the country at 19, up from 16 as we would have had yesterday. This figure includes 1 death. Of significance, though, is that so far the authorities have managed to trace only 5 of the 19 cases to local spread. And these 5 patients would have contracted or are suspected to have contracted having contacted the first patient, patient 1, who arrived and was staying in Eastern St. Andrew Bull Bay, where a quarantine is now imposed on that entire community. Since yesterday, too, a quarantine has also been imposed on the community of Corn Peace in Clarendon, and that is the community where the patient who unfortunately passed was staying. And this is because the patient is said to have interacted with several families from several households over the period since last week when he arrived in Jamaica. Another major announcement coming today is that Jamaica has closed to incoming passenger traffic, its air and sea ports, and that takes effect at 11:59 tomorrow. So essentially, there will be no passenger flight allowed in Jamaica as of tomorrow at 11:59 p.m., neither will there be any traffic being allowed on the sea. However, the Prime Minister pointed out that there will be still outgoing traffic and that there will be no restriction on cargo coming into Jamaica or going out of Jamaica.
Yes, Damien, how has all of this affected the zones of special operation that have been in place for some time now to deal with the problem of criminal violence?
Well, it has not been said as in relation to how it may have impacted the zones of special operations, but one of the things we can tell you is that a lot of those persons who would have been part of the zones of special operations have now, and states of public emergency, that there were just about 2 zones of special operations, but there were about 7 states of public emergency. They have been pulled in to assist with the quarantining of some of these areas, largely the military. But essentially, too, a very important point is that there has been a dramatic decline in murders over the past few days since there have been these cases of COVID being reported here. I think the latest I saw, which would have been about 2 days ago, was that there was an 8 percentage point plunge in murders in particular. So the security forces may be very well taking up, helping to contain the spread by virtue of enforcing the quarantine rules.
Damien, that's a very interesting development. Damien Mitchell of the RJR Gleaner Group in Jamaica giving us the very latest out of that island. All the very best. And we have to wrap there, Minister. I've been in studio with the Minister of Education, Anthony Garcia. I'm Wesley Gibbings. The discussion was COVID-19, its impact on the education of our children. Remember, you can join TTT from Monday for SEA lessons, math at 9:15 a.m. and language arts at 1:15 p.m. Thank you for joining us. I'm Wesley Gibbings. Good night, and please stay safe.